Hey, welcome back, Spector Creative watchers, subscribers, and video files. I've made a lot of videos on the toy industry, on pop culture, on marketing, and I've never actually made a video about who I am. You've been watching all these videos from me, and it's like, well, who is this guy anyway? So I thought I'd kind of make one about just, well, who is Scott Toy Guru Neitlich? Well, I'm that guy in the green with the, I think, Stratos on his head. I was born in Connecticut, grew up playing with He-Man toys in the 80s, and eventually became a man and moved out to California. Okay, well, according to the Jewish religion, I was a man at 13, but it took a few more years to legally be recognized. One thing that never really left was my enthusiasm for collecting toys. Even in college, I was driving down from UC Santa Barbara to Ventura to buy Star Wars figures at midnight, and my passion for toy collecting is what really drove my career. I wound up getting very fortunate and was at the place at the right time to become a brand manager at Mattel. Not only that, but a brand manager over toy lines that I actively collected or would collect, like Justice League and Masters of the Universe. I feel very blessed for the time I've gotten to spend at large toy companies, the experiences I've had, the people I've gotten to meet and work with. It really has been a blessed career. But there's a lot more than just toy collecting, and, either independently with Spector Creative or the time I spent with companies like Jax, Jada, Loot Crate, and a few of the others over the years, kind of building my career and helping to develop brand new product for the market. In fact, the Jada Nano is one of the things I'm most proud of because I literally created that one. All right. So besides all that, and besides the time I've spent in the toy industry, which I've used as the basis for, I guess, justifying why I'm bringing so much of this information to this channel, but who am I anyway? Who is this guy? I thought, hey, I get those questions a lot. So, like I said, I was born in Connecticut, where, we get snow every year, and it was a lot of fun growing up in the 80s with AT-AT toys in the snow, but eventually, my family moved to California, where I went to high school and college. And I actually spent a lot of time at Disneyland when I was a teenager because it was about 20 minutes from my high school. And back in the 90s, you could get a season pass for like $99, including premium passing. And this was parking, not passing. This was when the Indiana Jones adventure opened up. This was kind of that time. And everyone from my high school had a season pass. It was like it was like our mall, basically, Disneyland, because it was at that time inexpensive to have a season pass. And one of the things I fell in love with the Indiana Jones ride was how deep the queue got, and the idea that they were going to allow you to interpret a made-up language called hieroglyphics. They used to hand out these little cards for the first couple of years, and it was a one-to-one English swap code. So you could bring this with you and try to translate all the hidden messages on the walls, which were usually just promotions for AT&T or telling you to, have a glass of water if you're hot or something like that. But, of course, I became a little fascinated by this, and since we were in high school with, very little responsibility, my friends and I would spend hours and hours in the Indiana Jones queue, not even on the ride, sketching and drawing all of the different hieroglyphics all over the walls, and actually keeping for posterity a lot of the illustrations and elements that aren't even there anymore because they've been wiped off. I'll actually link to a video about that at the end. It's actually pretty fascinating. I was able to keep for posterity. Now, this love of, ancient languages and adventures really spilled over into college, where I took classes on exploration, the Nile, and wound up actually going to Egypt after college with two of my best friends from high school. And that's where I first encountered real ancient languages, not just hieroglyphics, and became even more fascinated and decided, hey, I'd like to learn how to read all of this. And you can actually see my lessons on Sundays on that. So besides my interest in adventure and foreign or dead languages, I'm also obviously a big toy collector. My office is filled with toys from top to bottom. One thing I absolutely love is dinosaurs, and I love paleo art. This is my favorite painting of all time. It's The Age of Reptiles by Zallinger. The original is actually huge. It's it's on the wall of the Peabody Museum in Yale, Connecticut. This was the dinosaur museum I went to as a child, and I used to stare up at this giant mural on the wall and was fascinated. I especially love this painting because it shows dinosaurs the way we thought of them in the 80s, like living in swamps. Obviously that has changed. I also love exploration, the age of exploration, everything from tall ships all the way to the sort of English and American explorers who marched into Africa in the middle of the 1800s. I love reading all of their sort of, well, their diaries, their adventure diaries. That was kind of like these were the summer blockbuster movies of the Victorian age, was reading these explorer journals. And that actually really got me into reading leather-bound books and reading, well, basically kind of like the, 100 or 200 greatest books of all time. This was a revelation I had when I went to BlizzCon a few years back, where people at a World of Warcraft panel were talking about the sheer number of hours they spent playing the game, and people were bragging and saying, well, I've spent the equivalent of 5 years of my life playing Warcraft. I've spent 10 years, hour-wise. And I was like, whoa, what could I do with that amount of time? So I decided I was going to read the 100 greatest books of all time. That suddenly became 200, 300. I think I'm up to 400. I don't know, but I have a huge passion for reading, and I like collecting leather-bound books because they look beautiful on the shelf, and you can put toys next to them. And much like one of my personal heroes, Ron Swanson, I absolutely love adventure books about tall ships and sailing, hence, the whole Age of Exploration. One of my favorites is 2 Years Before the Mast by Henry Dana, which, if you recognize that last name, it might be because you're from Southern California and you remember Dana Point. That's the town that he sailed to in this book, and the town is named after him. So you actually used to be able to go to Dana Point, and they had a scale model of the boat there. And it was really cool because it was like, getting to actually walk around on inside of a book in a way. It was pretty fascinating. So aside from nonfiction, I also like fiction books about tall ships, and the Hornblower series is one of my favorites. I also like the Patrick O'Brian books and, basically kind of any books about the Napoleonic Wars and all of that when, men were gentlemen and ships were everything. Obviously reading a lot more, though, than novels. I'm a huge comic book fan as well, and growing up in the 90s in that extreme shoulder pad era, I really wanted a character that was mine, that no one else was into, and that's what got me into Darkhawk, because he was just coming out. He was a brand new character for the 90s, and I wanted to feel like I got in on the ground floor of something, which is why Image Comics really appealed to me. And I eventually gravitated to Savage Dragon because, oh gee, what a shocker if you think about it. Savage Dragon, even though I know technically he's an alien, he's basically a dinosaur superhero. I mean, when you come down to it. So yes, Savage Dragon in a way does combine my love of dinosaurs and comic books and superheroes. Plus, again, Dragon was kind of a character that I could get on the ground floor with and still collect to this day. From a TV series perspective, can't say no to a good episode of Firefly. More's the pity it only had one season. Actually, you could say the same thing about my other favorite shows like Freaks and Geeks and Wonderfalls. Why is there not more Wonderfalls in this world? Again, more's the pity. Now, animation-wise, Futurama, except for those direct-to-DVD movies, The Simpsons, seasons 1 through 10. After that, gets a little iffy for me, but those first 10 seasons, pure gold. X-Men the Animated Series, huge influence on me and my toy collecting. In fact, I actually remember a time post-college where at 10 o'clock at night, they had Justice League Unlimited from 10 to 10:30, and then at 10:30 was the 2000X Masters of the Universe. So it was that was like the best hour to go to sleep to. You got Justice League, then He-Man, 11 o'clock, off to sleep. I loved that. Outside of TV and movies and comics, Monty Python. Huge Monty Python fan, and not just that whole, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and, the Knights Who Say Ni, that tends to be the more popular culture one, but if you ever go back and listen to their albums, like their records, which are available on tape and CD and download, not just black records, but wow, these things are amazing. If you've never heard the Monty Python record albums, you are really in for a treat, especially Matching Tie and Handkerchief, I think is their apex of humor, and it's absolutely worth tracking down and giving a listen to. Another comedy group I love that doesn't get talked about as much is the Firesign Theater, a group that actually was putting out albums as late as the early 2000s. Unfortunately, some of the members have passed at this point, which I guess is true of Monty Python too, but man, if you can pick up some Firesign Theater albums, huge recommend. Movies, Empire Strikes Back, #1, the original Matrix movie, the first one, Hudson Hawk, one of those hidden gems that I tend to talk about that most people are like, wait, what? This movie actually has a fan? Yeah, even the director in the director's commentary questioned that. Sneakers, awesome movie. Totally worth it. Master and Commander, big tall ships. Big shock that I like that movie. And of all the Indiana Jones films, Temple of Doom is by far my favorite. It's just, there's not every moment of that movie is perfect. My favorite fictional character, though, if I was going to come down to one, would be Sherlock Holmes. I was a fan of the Basil Rathbone books, well, not books, movies and radio drama growing up. I got to play Sherlock Holmes in the 7th grade show at Rancho Cucamonga High School in Irvine, California. And the thing is, when I played Sherlock in this play, I had to pretend to play the violin while it was actually a girl backstage was playing, but I faked it. And everyone in my class thought I could play violin because I faked it, I guess, so well. And that was part of what inspired me as an adult to take up the violin. I never played as a child, but I started playing about halfway through my time at Mattel. So maybe it's been about 10 years. And, like I said, I wish I played back when I was a little girl and spent my whole life and could, be an amazing violinist. But I'm just okay. But that's all right, because I play for myself. I play for fun. And, I'm not trying to win any orchestra awards. So that's me. I'm a kooky guy who really gets into toys. I love cosplay. I love to go to conventions. I love reading. I love sci-fi. And I feel very, very blessed to have had the career I've had and to be able to take my passions and find a way to pay the bills with them. So that's a little bit about me, and I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. It's always the best way to support this channel. Anything else? I'm always happy, no pun intended, to be an open book. Dinosaurs, tall ships, Savage Dragon, Star Wars, whatever you want to talk about, I'm glad to see you in the comment section.